And while the investigation of the serial murders continues, Milwaukee's police chief has taken action against 3 officers who had contact with Dahmer and who might have been able to prevent some of the killings. Jim Gibbons is in Milwaukee now with more details. Jim?
Marianne, it's another incredible twist taking place in the city of Milwaukee here tonight. We know that Jeffrey Dahmer was a very smooth talker. That's how he got 11 victims into his apartment, lured them in with smooth talk and promises of money in return for posing for pictures. But he was apparently able to talk his way out of some very serious trouble with the police back on May 27th here in Milwaukee. Neighbors had called police saying that there was an assault taking place. The police apparently arrived, and Dahmer talked his way out of it. Perhaps if they had been more diligent that night, 5 of the murders might not have occurred. Milwaukee's police chief says he learned that police may have been in Dahmer's apartment on May 27th only late yesterday. And the information apparently came from the news media, not the officers involved.
This is a matter of grave concern to me and the entire department. I have directed an immediate, in-depth inquiry into this matter by the Internal Affairs Division of the Milwaukee Police Department.
Witnesses have come forward to say they saw 14-year-old.
Channel 5's Paul Hogan is in Milwaukee with more on today's developments. Paul?
Well, Ron, the week-long tragedy in Milwaukee was compounded even further today when it became known that police here could have arrested and exposed Jeffrey Dahmer 2 months ago, but apparently let him slip right through their fingers. In that 2-month period, Dahmer is known to have killed 5 of his 17 victims. The 14-year-old Laotian boy disappeared from his Milwaukee home May 26th.
The most noticeable thing about it was the fact that he was nude.
This woman's daughter saw the boy running out of Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment building that night, screaming and bleeding. And the boy's family, who came to America full of hope only 10 years ago, learned today that when police arrived at the scene, they believed Dahmer's story, that the child was actually his 19-year-old lover with whom he was having a spat. Their family priest spoke for them today.
The family is filled with a lot of different emotions. Anger is certainly one of them.
Milwaukee's police chief is obviously embarrassed by the error that could have exposed Dahmer before he killed at least 5 of his known victims.
In view of the utter seriousness of the allegations, the welfare of the individuals involved, and the good of the department, the officers involved will be suspended from duty pending the outcome of this investigation.
Other than to say the family is certainly distressed by the story, there's nothing else we can say.
I am taken aback by this information. And I would reiterate that the department and I extend our personal condolences to all of the victims and their families, and most sincerely to the family of Mr. Konarak Synthesophone.
Well, 10 of the 11 victims whose remains were discovered Monday night have now been identified. The latest 2 more Milwaukee men, Curtis Straughter and Errol Lindsay, and the 3rd victim, the 10th, whose name and hometown are still being withheld, pending notification of next of kin. Paul Hogan reporting live from Milwaukee. Ron and Carol.
Paul, do we know any more about the specifics of that incident in which Dahmer was apparently able to convince police that this was a domestic? Did the 14-year-old boy speak English, do you know?
He speaks English, not as well as a native-born person, but his brother and sister confirmed that, yes, in fact, he did speak English, but drugged, and that he was having difficulty speaking for that reason. And the police let Dahmer pick him up and take him back into that Chamber of Horrors apartment May 27th.
All right, Paul, thank you very much. Since the Dahmer revelations, police in Kenosha County have reactivated their investigation of a 1983 dismemberment murder of a gay teenager.
Ray Suarez has the latest details on that story. Ray?
Ron, an author who has followed the bloody career of Larry Eiler was reading about the Jeffrey Dahmer case in a newspaper and found her memory triggered by a murder 8 years ago, still unsolved. Then she called Milwaukee police. Eric Hansen's torso was found in a dumpster in Kenosha in October of 1983. Though it was only a torso, the 18-year-old was identified from the scars left by earlier surgery. The case was never solved. At the beginning, Kenosha County Police thought the killing may have been the work of Larry Eiler, who was known to have been in Milwaukee in the early 80s. Now the attention is turning to Jeffrey Dahmer, who, according to Milwaukee police, was also in the area in 1983.
This young man disappeared September 27, 1983, from the gay area of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And when they found him, his head's missing, his hands are missing, and his feet are missing. Now, there's no mutilation of the genitals.
Kolarek is the author of Freed to Kill, which details the crimes and legal journey of Larry Eiler. The killing of Eric Hansen didn't fit the Eiler method, which featured the stabbing of a bound victim, while Dahmer's victims had been taken apart. Jeffrey Dahmer has been interviewed about the Hansen murder, and the man who's already confessed to a number of killings didn't deny that Hansen's death was his work. He only told interviewers he didn't remember. Kolarek says killings like these would be solved more quickly if police departments had special gay crimes units.
With Larry Eiler, I was able to find 7 men who survived attacks from Larry Eiler. And each one of them told me that they weren't taken too seriously. That they were told, like, oh yeah, was he your lover? How much did he pay you? He handcuffed you. What else did you do kinky?
And Kolarek points out that the first Eiler stabbing victim took a payment arranged by Eiler's lawyer and didn't go to court because of his own reluctance to discuss his homosexuality before an open courtroom. Ron and Carol?
All right, thank you, Ray. And the Dahmer case has authorities overseas looking into files to see if he might be linked to killings there. In particular, the U.S. Army is reviewing 5 unsolved cases in Germany during the time Dahmer was stationed in Germany. He served as a medic at Baumholder between June 1979 and March 1981. Files on 4 women and 1 man murdered during that time in that area remain open.
The news of the chilling murders in Milwaukee is having a devastating effect on Chicago's gay community, a community that Dahmer apparently visited on many occasions. Phil Walters reports on the fears of gays and the apparent target of this accused killer.
What is disturbing many in the gay community here is how long a compulsive killer apparently was walking among them and nobody noticed. It now turns out that Jeffrey Dahmer joined the Man's Country bathhouse on North Clark back in 1987 and was still frequenting the club this year.
Very quiet, no problems. That's the main thing, you know.
Quiet, no problems. And we reported yesterday that customers at the Vortex Club on North Halsted say Dahmer attempted a pickup there June 30th. They brushed him off and thought nothing more of it until this week. So Dahmer's trail in Chicago dates back 4 years and reaches from 5000 North down to 1400 North in Old Town, where he lured Jeremy Weinberger from Carol's Speakeasy on July 6th. And all that time, no one noticed.
They don't intrude in our space. They don't annoy us. They're not intrusive in any way in our lives, and we tend to let them go and think of them as affable. Essentially, they don't cause us any trouble.
Until this week, the horror was invisible. Now it is impossible to ignore.
You know, these people walk among every group, and that when it hits your community particularly, you're particularly aware of it because it seems very close to home.
So her social agency, Horizons, is providing counseling to gay clubs, and community leaders struggle with the social and political as well as emotional impact of this tragedy. Phil Walters, Channel 5 News.
And still to come on our coverage of the Milwaukee murders at 6 o'clock, a special Unit 5 report on the drug Halcyon, which was prescribed to Jeffrey Dahmer, a drug blamed for aggressive behavior by some who've used it.